Okay. I would tell you that as far as when it's translated into the translation isn't the same as God's word being changed. God's word being changed. What that means is, if somebody tells you that John 3:16 says, "For God so hated the world that He didn't do anything for anything," right? Because we know that that's not what John 3:16 says. That's what God. You're changing God's word is what He means is by manipulating and changing it into something heretical is what that means. Translating the Bible is not into different various uh, contexts or different versions of the Bible, and isn't bad in theory, because when you say we shouldn't translate it outside of what is the standard? Is it King James? Because if you translate it into Japanese for the Japanese, then you're not reading the King James version anymore. You're reading the Japanese version. If you translate it to Chinese, to all these other languages, the standard is no longer King James anymore, because you're translating it for
I'll be right back.
a different group of people. So what I would tell you is, if you're looking for a Bible to read, then what you'll want to focus in on is the word for word translations that are out there. If you're concerned about the Bible that you may be reading, then you could Google and get other people that are scholars what their opinions of it are. The NIV has its place. If I'm reading a verse that I just want from a different outlook, then I would choose the NIV or something else. The NIV is considered a thought for thought. They take a translation like the King James, and then they give their thought based off of that, rather than actually translating from the original manuscripts that we have. There is a translation out there called an interlinear Bible. On one side of the page is the original manuscript, and then on the other side of the page are those words that are translated, so you can actually see the words in their original text and then what they translate to now. So I think that your question is awesome. I think that you should stick with something like the NASB, the MEV, the Modern English Version, the NASB is what I use, the New American Standard. They update it ever so often, and they don't update the actual context itself. What they do is we continue through archaeological finds. We find more manuscripts, so they just update it based off of that. So they just came out with one in 2020. That is the version that I use whenever I teach out of. I use the NASB 2020 version. But I would encourage you to read out of a word for word translation, and then if you're reading a verse and you're just totally confused, then switch over to the NIV or something that's like that. So I hope that answered the question, and yeah, that's a phenomenal question. We appreciate it.